Hello, everyone, and welcome to the eFile and eServe training for external filers. This training is brought to you by Court Services Unit at the State Court Administration Office. These are the objectives for today's training. We will discuss the Register Users Filing Guide for electronic filing and additional support material available on the Minnesota Judicial Branch website. If you have not already, I highly recommend you read through this guide. There are also some other important support materials that we're going to cover for you later on in this training. We are going to identify all the steps for setting up and managing your accounts. We will also cover how to set yourself up as a service contact, which is a very important step in the EFS system. We're going to describe the sections in the application and show you how to use them. We're going to explain how to prepare your documentation. This is an essential step for filing. All filings need to be in the correct format. We will discuss this more a little later in the training. We'll show you how to e-file into a new case, e-file and eServe into an existing case, and eServe only. And then our last objective is to show you where all the materials are available that you can refer to after the session today. To use EFS application, make sure you have a high-speed internet connection. The browser recommendation is Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Safari, and Microsoft Edge. The first guide that we're going to talk about is the Register Users Filing Guide. The guide establishes mandatory formatting and technical requirements for electronic filing in the Minnesota State Trial Courts. The guide talks about authorized signature formats and the responsibility of every filer to identify and designate non-public court filing and administrative rejection and striking process. The overview in this guide are provided for convenience and should not be relied upon as a source of legal authority. Any court filings may be subject to any number of court rules, statutes, or other sources of the law that do not appear in this guide. This guide is prepared by the Minnesota State Court Administration Office and is subject to updates every once in a while. The current governing version of the guide is posted on the Minnesota Judicial Branch website at www.mincourts.gov. Updates are summarized in the revision history section at the end of the guide. Next, we are going to talk a little about court rules. These rules are called Minnesota Rules of Public Access to the Record of the Judicial Branch. These legal requirements for using the EFS system are defined in the Minnesota Rules of Court, more specifically, the General Rules of Practice. If it has been a while since you read through these rules, then I highly recommend you read through them again. Some of the rules were updated on January 1st of 2021. There's also a recorded video on the MJB website under the court rules section, which covers the changes. If you are unable to attend a live training, then I think it would be very helpful to watch the recording. It's called Video Recording of the Rules Changes Continuing Legal Education. Here is the financial number cheat sheet, also available on the public website. General Rules of Practice 11 prohibits restricted identifiers in all court filings. Restricted identifiers are Social Security numbers, employee identification numbers, and other taxpayer identification numbers. Restricted identifiers also includes financial account numbers, and filers may only use the last 4 digits of financial account numbers in a publicly accessible court document. Remember, numbers that are financial account numbers and are more than 4 digits in length are restricted identifiers under the Minnesota General Rule of Practice 11. If the full financial account number must be submitted to the court, it must be submitted on Form 11.2 Confidential Financial Source Document Cover Sheet. These forms, along with the confidential cover sheet for submitting non-public documents, are available on the Minnesota Judicial Branch website under Court Forms Confidential Information. The General Rules of Practice 11 and 14, as amended effective January 1st, 2021, generally requires all people who file non-public documents into public court cases to identify and designate the documents as non-public. If you are e-filing, you can use some universal codes instead of the cover sheet. General Rule Practice 14 is the rules that govern electronic filing and service, which applies to attorneys because they need to e-file. You have two steps in the process. You have to identify, then designate the non-public documents using the Universal Form 11.2 cover sheet to submit a non-public document. The Universal cover sheet is a public document, so you have to file it separately, but it can be in the same envelope, or you can use the non-public filing code e-filing system. I will show you this in my demonstration a little bit later down the road. The Minnesota Judicial Branch created a few filing code indexes to help our external filers file their documents. We asked our district courts, which were the most common cases filed, and they gave us these lists. Please keep in mind that all the codes are not listed, but the most common ones filed. There's also an expedited process child support index and 2 criminal search documents available. These indexes and handouts will help when you're filing documents with the court. It also gives you some information about document security, because it is the filer's responsibility to select the correct document security when they're filing their documents. Again, please keep in mind that these are not all the filing codes. These are just the most commonly filed cases. Let's talk about the roles and responsibilities for each user. A firm administrator adds and manages the firm account. The firm administrator's responsibilities include adding and updating firm information, managing payment and waiver accounts, registering firm users by sending them a registration link from their account, and accepting or rejecting registration request. A self-represented litigant manages the account themselves, since the account is usually set up for a single user, and their responsibility includes registering and maintaining their account, adding and updating payment and waiver information, and e-filing, e-serving. If you are a solo practitioner and you're filing on a regular basis, you want to make sure you set up yourself as a firm administrator account, because you're filing on a regular basis. So just a couple of helpful reminders as you are registering your firm. It's recommended that your firm has at least 2 administrators. One will register the firm, then add additional admins to the firm as needed. This allows people to handle administrative duties if an administrator is on vacation, in court, or is no longer with the firm. Again, if you are an attorney and practicing both privately and publicly, you'll need to register a separate EFS account with different email addresses for each of your practices. For example, an attorney with a private practice who is also a public defender would register twice. One account will be registered for the public defender's firm using the public defender email address, the other account for the private practice using the private practice email address. To register, you'll go to the Minnesota Judicial Branch website and click on a link, or you can just type this URL address in your browser, and then you'll click register right here under actions. So here is how you register your account. As a firm administrator, you will go in and put in your first name, last name, email address, password. You'll enter your security question and answers, and then click next. Then you'll go in and choose your option. Are you registering for a firm account? Go ahead and check the little round circle in the bottom right corner, or are you registering as a self-represented litigant? Then you'll enter your first name, your county, your address, your city. You want to make sure as a firm administrator that you keep this checkbox checked here so that you are requiring administrative approval of all user registrations in case you do receive a user sending you a application to file with your firm and it's not someone who's a part of your firm, then you as a firm administrator have to approve or deny that information. So just keep that checked for security. Over in the bottom right, click next. And then you'll read through the Odyssey File and Serve Usage Agreement and click I agree, create my account. And then over on the right, you're going to go to your email account and look for an email from our vendor. Once you find that vendor email, you'll click into the email and then click on the link to verify your email address. So when you're filling out your registration form, please double check it to make sure all the information, especially your email, is correct before you click that next button, because you do have to verify your email account. You may not receive this email right away. It may end up in your junk mail or in your spam mail. Just check those two boxes in your email accounts if you don't get an email from Tyler, the vendor, in the future, within an hour or two. Sometimes it might take a day, but you want to make sure to check that, the spam and the junk mail. Once you verify your email account, then you can start e-filing and e-serving into EFS. And now we will go to a training site and show you a live demonstration. Before we go and show you the live demonstration, I'm going to bring you to the Minnesota Judicial Branch website and show you where to get some of the materials and forms, and just show you how to get to the File a Case website right here on the Minnesota Judicial Branch website. So in your URL, you can put them in mincourts.gov and it'll bring you to the Minnesota Judicial Branch. Over on the right, you'll click on File a Case, and then File a Case in District Courts, and then File a Case in District Courts. And here you are brought to File in District Court website. This is the Register Users Filing Guide. So if you click on it, it is going to open it up, and this is where you'll want to review this information. I highly recommend that every time you're looking at this guide that you look at it from the public website and not save it to your computer. The reason is it gets updated every so often, and once it's updated, if you have it saved to your computer, you will not see the updates. So please, if you're reviewing this, just make sure you open it up from the public website. Over on the right here, this is eFile and eServe. So if I click here, it's actually going to bring you to the live site. And up at the top, we have court information. Welcome to the Minnesota e-filing system. And anytime you go in to start e-filing, I would read this message of the day every every time or every other time that you go in there. The reason that you want to do that is to make sure that you know if the system's going to be down for any updates in the future. And also it does give you some links out to other sections of the eFile and eServe system. And then right down here is the support, Minnesota eFile Support Center. It's really important that you contact the Minnesota Support Center and not the Tyler vendor to ask questions. The reason is we took some customization from Tyler and customize it for our Minnesota filers. So you want to make sure that if you have a question about eFile and eServe, that you contact our support team here and not this support section in the bottom right corner. So once you have your account set up and verified your email address, then you would just click the sign in, and you would just sign in using your email address and the password that you set up. And you can always, if you need to, you can always bookmark this website. Otherwise, you can just go from this public website here on this link. I just want to show you where those confidential forms are before we move forward with the live demonstration. If you click on Get Forms and you scroll down to confidential information, and you'll see there are forms here. We have the confidential information form, the cover sheet for non-public documents, and then there's also a confidential document cover sheet for CHIPS, and all your other forms here. The court rules, if you scroll down to the bottom here and you click on court rules, this is where you're going to see the court rules. And then if you click on this, what you need to know, important amendments to court, and here's that video, recording of rule changes, continuing legal education, CLE, with the updates from January of 2021. So now I'm going to go back to my home page. We'll go back to the file a case page here in just a little while, but first I'm going to hop over to my training site. One thing I want you to keep in mind that in this training site, it's all fake information and it's not real information. So you do not want to use this URL when you're filing your case, because you won't be filing with the court because it's a training site. Again, you'll want to go to this minnesota.tylerhost.net from the public website. But I'm going to this training site. Everything in here is fake information and nothing is real. That's my disclaimer. It's fake information. I just always think that you get a better idea of how something works if you can see it in action. I'm going to go ahead and sign in with my fake account. I have a fake firm account. Once I'm signed in, I'm brought to the dashboard, the filer dashboard. You can always click on this Minnesota Judicial Branch logo in the top left corner to kind of refresh your page and bring you back here. Over on the right, this is where you're going to see where you can manage your security. So you can change your security question and answers if you need to once you're logged in there. I'm not going to show you that page right now, and the reason is because then you'll see my question and answers for my training site. This is where you manage your notifications. So if I click manage notifications, so this second thing you'll want to do before you start e-filing, e-serving is go into your email notification. So the first thing you register. Second thing you do is you go into your email notifications and just make sure everything's checked. These are notifications that you'll receive from the courts. And if everything is checked, then that means you'll know when you're filing. You're going to email when your filing's accepted, your filing's rejected. The filing submission failed is important because it's your responsibility as a filer to resubmit when filing submission has failed. And the reason it could be, maybe it was a corrupted file that accidentally got e-filed by you, or maybe the courts could not read the documents. They weren't in PDF format, or they weren't flattened. So I believe that the filing submission failed. We'll give you an email when that is selected by the courts. So just check these to make sure they're all checked. I always recommend taking a look at them. Right down here, this is your sign out button. You want to make sure that every time that you sign out, use the sign out button. All applications that I've trained on in the 14 years that I've been training has had a sign out button. And that means that the sign out button securely signs you out. I know we're all used to clicking the X in the upper right corner, but if you click that sign out button, it will securely sign you out. And that way no one else could go into your history on your computer and be brought to the eFile and eServe system logged in. So if someone steals your computer, goes to your history, they may be able to, if you don't sign out securely, they may be able to get to your site. Not that they would want to do that, or not that that would happen, but you just never know. So just make sure you're using that sign out button every time you sign out. I'm going to click this home, and it's going to bring me back to the home page. So on the left, we have pending, accepted, returned, drafts, and served. These are all your different folders, right? These are all your filing activities. And depending on where your filing is at, you'll find them in these different sections. Here we have view all. If we click view all, you can view all the filings that are in there. And you'll see the history. So a case, this has been drafted. It does have a case number because I was filing into a case here. Here's the envelope number. So this one has only an envelope, and it was depending on, over on the right, depending on where you're at within in the filing, will determine what kind of actions you can do with the filing. So right down here on this 04 FA, if I click under actions, I can view envelope details, which is very nice, because what that means is I can view the details. I can find out where my filing is. I don't have to call up the courts. I can just click view envelope details and click on view receipt. And it's going to show you those envelope details. And now I'll go back, and I'll go back one more. Right down here, if we go down to, let's see, I have a lot of drafts in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up here to home. I'm going to go into my accepted and take a look at my accepted filings only. So right over here, so you can view envelope details. So I'll go down here. Let's go down to this one right here. Maybe this will show us a little bit more details. View receipt. So this one gives us a little bit more information. We have the envelope information, case information, filings, and then we have fees. And then it gives you the document if you need to take a look at the original copy or the court copy. So it'll also tell you when it was accepted date. So it just gives you all that information. So depending on what filing you're looking at here, depends on the action. So you can file into the case, you can file into a case with a template. This one is bookmarked. We'll talk about that, but you can remove the bookmark right down here. You can bookmark this case. So what you can do as a filer is, if you're working on multiple cases, you can bookmark a case, and within the bookmarks, you will see under the actions, if you go to bookmarks, you'll see all the cases that you bookmark. So maybe this works for a firm who has multiple filings and everyone's looking at the filings and they only want to see the filings that they're working on, then you can bookmark those cases. So when I go back to the dashboard, so we already talked about the different folders here, how you can view all. Over on the right, we can start a new case here, or we can file into a existing case, or we can use a template. You have to set the templates up if you're going to use a template. This is just another way of filing into a case. Over on the right under actions, this is where you'll normally go, or it's your personal preference on where you want to go to start your filing. You can either click on the blue button here. You can even, go into one of the folders, and on the right hand side, you could click on file into a case, or you can do it here. It all depends on what you want to do as a filer, what you're comfortable with. Just like all other systems, there's different ways that you can do one thing in an application, and that's what this is. Filing history, here's your templates. So if you want to create templates, you can. So this works well if you are a filer who files the same documents or the same cases over and over again. You can create a template and file into cases using a template. And then we have firm service contacts. So this is where, this is the third thing you should probably do when you go into EFS, is look at the firm service contacts, make sure the service contact, your name is in there as a service contact, because you will need to attach yourself to a case as you're filing, so that you get served on that case. So you want to make sure that you are in there as a service contact. Most of your firm administrators will probably already set you up as a firm service contact, but we'll want to make sure that you double check to make sure everything is correct. In this administrative copy, you want to put anyone's email address that you want to get copied on all your filings in EFS. So if you have a paralegal, put their email address in there. You have an associated attorney that you want to send administrative copies of all of your filings, you can put their email address in there, and you can separate them out by a colon. The reason is we want to recommend that when you're filing on a case, that you only have one or two service contacts on there per firm. And then if you need more people to be aware of your filings, you can put them in the administrative copy. You can also, if you didn't want to have them on every filing that you go into or that you file, what you could do is wait until you file it and then send it from your personal email. Just forward that to whoever you need to see that filing. But again, we highly recommend, it's a recommendation from the courts that only one or two people be put on per case from each firm as a service contact. Otherwise, I would put their email address under administrative copy. So just go in and double check to make sure you're all listed as a service contact. Under actions, I showed you the bookmark, so you can bookmark cases. You won't have available reports at this time. For this firm, I'm the firm admin. And so what I'm going to be doing is I will be going through and at the end of today's session, we will cover the firm admin part. So if you're a firm admin, you can go ahead and stay on with me about 10 minutes after we're done e-filing into a case, and we will walk you through how to manage your firm account. So let's file a case. I click on start a new case. And again, you can either start a new case from here, or you can start a new case for under the actions. So under location, you want to choose your location. So I'm going to choose, I'll just choose Carver for right now. Under category, you want to choose your category. So if this is a family, this case type is going to be a waterfall effect, which means any case type in here is going to be family case type. Any civil, any criminal, all that's going to be over on the left, and then you'll have the case type will be right over here. So choose your category and then choose your case type. And I'm just choosing a really quick family case to save us a little bit of time. I think it's just a way for us to save some time. We don't have to fill out a whole lot of information. The idea is just to show you how to use the system. Over on the right, I click on Save Changes. And the changes are saved. Down below, now we have party information. Now, depending on your case type, you should have all the party information listed here. What you will do is you'll put in the party information. If it's a business, you'll check this box and then put in the business or agency. But here I'm going to put in my first name. You'll also want to fill in any addresses, any city or state, all the information that you can fill out. I would fill that out in here. Over on the right, the filer ID. If you were given that from the courts, you can put it in here. Usually that's not used, but if you do have that filer ID, you can put it in here and it'll fill out that party information. But I want to make sure that you fill out your addresses, your city, your zip code, your phone number, everything, so that you put as much information in there as you can. EFS, I always talk about how applications are garbage in, garbage out. You only get the good information out of the system as long as you're putting good information in. So just make sure you're putting all the information in, make sure you have everything prepared in your documentation before you just go in there and e-file, because you really need to make sure you prepare that documentation the way it needs to be so that you can easily e-file, because the system is really easy to use. I think the harder part is making sure that all your documentation is correct and you have you've submitted confidential forms where necessary, and just make sure that all the information that you're entering is correct. So I'm going to click Save Changes. I'm just going to save us time and not put the addresses and city in here. Now what it's going to do is now it's going to flip down to the respondent. And your EFS system will not spin as much as mine is spinning today. It's a training site and people are in there. And so that's why it's a little bit slower. And I'll click Save. If you do need to add another party, that's fine. That's right up here, but I'm not sure if you'll need to add another party, because usually the case type will put all the party information correct in EFS. It'll pull that information. Under eFile, you will eFile your document. Now on a new case, normally you wouldn't eFile and eServe unless you serve someone through the mail and you're entering that affidavit of service. So I'm going to choose eFile right here. You cannot eServe through EFS unless on the initial case, on a new case. So if right now we're e-filing, if your opposing party needs to go in and look at this, they need to go into EFS and create an account, and they need to add themselves as a service contact to get that information. But if you can't eServe on a new case. So over here on the right, you can go ahead and just choose. I'm going to start typing in joint dissolution, filing description. This can be supplemental information that may show up on the Register of Actions. Don't duplicate the filing code. Make sure that your filing description doesn't have any public information like someone's name, party names, or anything like that, because it will show up in the filing if it's public information. If the description doesn't add any value, then you can just put the period in there. The client reference number. This is your client reference number. The courts do not need this number. If you use this reference number internally, you can put that reference number in here. However, if the reference you don't, you just put a period. Over here on the right, comments to the court. What you can do is, this is where you are going to put in the document security. So I'm going to go ahead and put public for now. And then courtesy copies, this is not eServing. I don't recommend that you use courtesy copies. If you need to send someone a courtesy copy, and that's not eServing, just to make that clear. If you need to send them a courtesy copy, you can send it through your own mail. I don't recommend that you use EFS. And the reason is courtesy copy, the vendor is not going to know whether or not this got sent. They don't track it. And if you put a wrong email address in there, then you won't know if that person actually got it. So I always recommend file your documents. If you want to send a courtesy copy, that's not eServing, do it from your own email account, because then you can see that you sent it to them. You have proof that you sent it to them. But again, that's not eServing. I just say skip over courtesy copy, don't even use it. Right down here, this is where you'll click on the computer, and what you'll want to do is go in and find your documents. And it'll pull your document over. Right down here, you can optional services and fees. You can add an optional service and fee right in here. And then you can click Save Changes. Now up here at the top, if you scroll back up, let's say that you have another document and you want to file it in the same envelope. So you just click on Add Another Filing, and you follow the same steps. And the description, period, and comments to the court. This is where you say confidential. You can say confidential form 11.2. And then again, you go in and find that document. And it attaches it right in the same envelope. So what you want to do is when you put in a description, let's say that, or sorry, not a description, when you put in a comment, you have to mark it, public. If it's confidential, tell the courts why in the comments. It's confidential form 11.1, or there it has personal information or different whatever it is that the reason you think it's confidential, because it's your responsibility as a filer. As we scroll down, this is where you're going to see service contacts. So what you'll do is click on the party. Over on the right, you'll add from service contacts list, and you'll choose the name. Now this, you cannot add anyone else. You can only add yourself to receive service contacts. So you can't add another someone from another party or anything like that as a service contact from another law firm. You can only add yourself. And again, make sure there's only 1 or 2 people as a service contact per case, because and if you need more people to get copied on this, either send it through your email or put them in the administrative copy. And I never use other service contacts. Other service contacts, well, I shouldn't say never use it. There are certain reasons that you would use other service contacts, and that's in the guide that I'm going to show you later on. But the reason that we don't recommend other service contacts is because courts can't see other service contacts. So you want to make sure you're not using those. Make sure you're attaching yourself to an actual party. If we scroll down over on the right, we choose for this training, I'm just going to choose waiver tests. The reason that I'm choosing that is because it's a training site. And then we're going to click Save Changes. And you'll see success in the upper right corner. If I scroll down, I check the box next to important notice responsibility to designate, and then important notice of redaction of all filers must redact full and partial Social Security numbers. And then we click summary, or you can save as a draft if you want to and take a look at the original document to make sure it's correct. Documents are in there, and then click summary here, or save as a draft, but I'm going to click summary. And I'm going to go through and just double check, make sure everything is correct, make sure all the information is accurate before I click that submit. If you have to make changes, what you'll need to do is go in here and click it a couple of times. And you should be able to make changes. So if I click on this, so you can make any changes that you need to, either through here, or you can actually go back. If you want to review the information there, and then let's say that you have to make some changes, then you would just go back here. Or you would look in the drafts folder. If you saved it as a draft, you would go here. And then what you could do is click to expand. And you can always, if the document's incorrect, you can click this X and it'll remove that document. And you'll have to go in if you made changes, and you'll have to check these boxes, click summary. And then you can submit. So it's just, making sure your information is correct before you hit submit. Some people might put it in a drafts folder before they submit it. And so, and if you get logged out of EFS, your filing will end up in this drafts folder. It doesn't go away. And so you'll have to go into the drafts, and then you can, view the information. You can resume the draft envelope. You can remove, delete the draft, whatever it is. So just remember that if you get logged out or need to make changes and you saved it as a draft, it'll be in the drafts folder. It doesn't disappear. So if I want to go in and start a file into an existing case, you can click here, and then you can enter the case number and then click file into the case. It's going to spin a little bit. There we go. So you can enter a case number and then file into the case, or what you can do is go into your accepted. And then over on the right, you can go in. That one wasn't accepted yet. Go in and we can click file into the case. So now we're filing into an existing case. So what happens here is the case information comes over, The party information comes over. So you just got to kind of look through it and review the information, review the party information. On an existing case, you never add more parties. If you see that a party is missing or their name is incorrect, you want to call the courts, contact the courts. I'll show you how to find the courts on the public website. You'll want to contact the courts and ask them to update the name, because on an existing case, it's already in our Mensa's case management system. So you want to make sure that you don't want to add any party information or anything in there. You just want to review it. Right down here, you need to make sure that you choose what you're going to do with this filing. So you're going to eFile and eServe because it's an existing case, or you can serve only, whatever you decide to do. But again, filing into an existing case, this filing type defaults to eFile. So it's really important that you choose something from the drop-down menu, whatever you're doing. And then you put in the filing code. I'm just throwing something in there, and descriptions. It's the same what we did just a few minutes ago. And then you choose your document. And you scroll down and, add your optional services, click save, add additional documents, whatever you need to do. I'm going to click save. You'll review the party information, your service contact information, make sure everything is accurate. Right down here, then you can choose your payment. Make sure you keep an eye on your credit cards. If you're a firm admin, just to make sure that you have enough money in there, because EFS does check that, debit cards and credit cards. If I click save, I'm just choosing waiver test for today. And then I check both the boxes and click summary. And you click submit. So that's how you file into a new case. That's how you file into an existing case. And then eServe is the same steps. You just choose service from that drop-down menu. It's really important that you make sure that you choose the right service from that drop-down menu. So back to my PowerPoint, I want to make sure I talk a little bit about your documentation preparation. Ensure all documents are completed and signed before you start e-filing. All electronically filed documents must be submitted as PDF files. Check the court rules for required forms, pleadings, and other filings. All filed documents and all exhibits offered at trial must have consecutive page numbers. Judges like those page numbers. Save documents where you can easily find them. And you'll find all of this information and even more information in that register's users filing guide. I'm going to go back to the Minnesota Judicial Branch website and show you how to get to the eFile and eServe page. If I click on File a Case in District Court, and then File a Case in District Court, here is the File in the District Court webpage. Here's the overview. You can read through this if you'd like to. eFile and eServe training. This will be updated with this recording shortly. So this will look a little different, but we are going to have a recorded training there for your future reference or future trainings. It'll be this recording. If you go over here to the right, we go to training materials. Now this is all the training materials. Everything that I covered during today's session will be in one of these quick reference guides, like registering the firm administrator's account, inviting an individual to register with the firm. I'm going to cover that at the end of today's session, bookmarking the case, adding and removing payment accounts, e-filing, and in a new case. All of that information is in here. If I click on one of these, it's going to open up and you're going to see a step-by-step on how to complete this information in EFS with screenshots. And then we have eFile and eServe resources over on the right. We have different best practices, fast facts. We have a quick reference guide on flattening PDFs. We have a list of the financial account numbers, a list of non-public case types, and then right over here on the left, we have civil case type indexes, criminal search warrant filing information, all the information you need right here on the public website. The EFS Support Center is also in this tab where you can, if you have a question, you're in there filing and you have a question, you can contact the EFS Support Center. And again, that register users filing guide is at the top. To find a court, you click on Find Courts and then scroll down to like the county and click Go. And then you'll receive the information on how to contact that court if you need to in the future. Thank you so much for joining me today and watching this video. I hope it was helpful. Again, remember, go to our Minnesota Judicial Branch website for any information. You'll also have the eFile and eSupport Center information. You can either get it here or remember on the public website, and then eFile and eServe site. For any local and case specific questions, make sure that you're contacting the county or court that you're filing in. Again, if you have a question, please contact the Minnesota eFile Support Center. Thanks again for joining me during today's session. For those of you who are firm admins, please stay on for the next 5 minutes with me and we will show you how to manage your firm account. We will now show you how to manage your firm account. So once you set up your firm account and verified your information, over on the right, you will go ahead and click on Firm Users. This is where you can add firm users, and how you would add them is you email them a email link. And in the email link, it will have this link to the filing with Odyssey File and Serve document, and then they can click on the link and fill out the information. You also want to check to make sure that some users haven't already filed, set up an account through EFS, and just to make sure that if they have set up account, instead of contacting you or receiving that email from you, then their account will come in to your firm users here. And what you'll need to do is probably go in and approve it. But I think, all of your account firm users should be in there from the previous system. And then if you have to add any new ones, you would just click this, add a new one. And then over on the right, you're going to see like active or remove. I'm the firm admin as Tori Trainer in here, so that's why I can't be removed, but you'll see additional options under actions over on the right. But to get anyone new, you would just email them this little link. And it's up to you to approve anyone that is coming through that link. And you'll see it over under actions. So firm attorneys right here, here are the firm attorneys. You can remove them. You'll see this action not only under firm attorneys, but any firm users if they are applying or trying to register under your firm. That's why you need that little checkbox to stay checked so that you can approve them. And then firm information. Under the firm information, this is going to have your name, your address, and you can edit as a firm administrator. You can edit this information at any time. It's just spinning a little bit for me today. Yours shouldn't spin as much. And then the payment information, there it is. So here's the name, the county, address, city. Over here on the left, you can check the box here to make sure that you can approve any new user registration. You have to approve those. And like I said, the new user registrations will come through under firm user, and then you'll see an action over here button on the right, and then you'll click approved or reject, I believe it is. And then this is your payment account. So you'll set up your payment accounts. Payment account name, make sure you don't put your credit card number in there. Just put your payment account name and then the payment account type and whether or not it's active. And then over here under actions, you will be able to remove it or change it. But to add a new payment account, you just click here and you put your payment account. And then once you put your payment account name, you go down here and choose credit card and then click enter account information. It'll bring you out to a different website, a more secure website, and you'll put your information in there. And you'll have to keep it updated with any changes. So that's kind of how you manage your account. So thanks again for joining me today and have a really great day.